So let it be written, so let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors. My name's Tim, and I am only half of Tabletop Terrors. This is Daily Damage. It is a vloggy live stream video, so if you don't like that sort of thing, I recommend not watching this. It's very conversational. Now, what is Tabletop Terrors all about? Well, if this is your first time here and you're kind of just learning about us, we just love helping people be more creative and being more creative ourselves. And the tool we use to do that is Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop RPGs. So, we are going to talk about a lot today, but I just want to talk about a campaign that's really special to me and just kind of share some stuff with you that I haven't really talked about in a long time. But before I do that, let's check the chat. Heavenly Hit Points. Hey, got in here early. What's going on? Bear Gaming is here. Hey. Josh Hull says, happy lunch, Tim and team. Daily Familage. Dylan Allen says, hooray, Daily Damage. John Firkin. Hey, Tim. B. Flummy, greetings. Karen Davies, good day. Bear Gaming. So I was here the other day talking about going to my first D&D game, and no one showed up besides the DM. No! It's the nightmare of all nightmares. So I play in a campaign, as we all probably do, or want to. There's something magical to me about the Provokers because it taught me what I love about D&D, which sounds weird, but I've always had this idea that I wanted to play D&D since I was really young. And then I sort of tried, and while there's no way to play it wrong, there is a way to play it and not like it. And so I was putting out videos on our YouTube channel, like filming them in my room. Like there's an update video at the beginning of our channel, like it's one of our first 10, 20 videos. It's me and James, and we couldn't find any place to film. So, oh, it's so cringy. We're sitting in front of the dresser in my bedroom, and we're filming, sitting on the floor, filming about how we're doing a channel reboot and all this. Anyway, somehow in the midst of all that, Matt Click, who was one of my inspirations for starting our YouTube channel in the first place, was, he hit me up and he said, hey man, just wanted to see if you want to play in a one-shot. And that sounded like a really cool idea to me. So I did. And, you know, I was sitting there, the game was getting ready to start, and I just thought, I've never really been myself playing a game. I've never really went as far as I wanted to. I never really pushed and like role played. And I decided, I was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna try that. And then I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. And as much as I have Matt Click to thank, I also have Barker from Be a Better Game Master to thank, because luckily for me, Barker spoke before me. And this is probably one of the best examples of positive peer pressure in my entire life. But when Barker described what his character was doing, I was like, hey, yeah, this guy knows what I'm talking about. That's what I want to do. And then it was my turn to say what I was doing, and I was like, oh man, oh, okay, is this what we're all doing? We're all gonna go real ham? Okay. And so I did, and for the first time, I spoke, and I was role-playing, like I was like, yes! And so, the best part is, not only did at the last second did I decide to go through with my Scottish accent for Durgan, but my internet connection was abysmal. It was so bad. And so because my internet connection was so bad, that first spark of inspired roleplay was lost in like Transformer, Starscream, anyway. The reason why I say all that is because for me, the Provokers taught me what I love about D&D. And it's more than just a campaign. The Provokers And that game, and Matt as a DM, if you really want to look at it, is sort of a catalyst in my life. It's the catalyst that made me decide that I love role-playing so much that I want to write books about role-playing, and that I love playing in the Provoker so much that I want to learn how to DM from Matt. And so that's why I think you might enjoy watching the Provokers, because it's not just a cool campaign that's story-driven with amazing roleplay. It's the start of absolute tabletop, if you really look. It's the beginning of some of the best friendships that I've ever had. It's the seed that went into the ground to become the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group that grew, and its branches extended into AtCon, and soon a Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin. The Provokers helped me overcome depression from not being able to be creative. It gave me something to look forward to and people to get to know. And so for me, the Provokers is way more than just a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. It's sort of the start of my creative adult life, and it means a lot to me. So I wanted to tell you all that to tell you that we're actually playing another game this Sunday night. And I want you to hang out with us. I want you to come check out the Provokers Sunday night, because you'll have a blast. We always leave the chat open. We always have a great time. We always hang out, and I want you to be a part of that. I want you to be a part of something that is so special to me. I want to share it with you. Let's hang out around a virtual tabletop, and let's play some D&D together. Now, there's some logistics involved. You might say, Tim, I've never seen the Provokers. Well, look at this fat roll of notes right here. Look at this big fat notes, boy. I got a bunch of recap notes, but I didn't want to just jump into a recap. I wanted to explain to you why this game changed my life, and I wanted to invite you to maybe enjoy it yourself. Let's go to the chat, because we got lots of folks here, lots of smart, talented, inspirational individuals. What's going on? Hey, Slytherin72 says I actually made it on time. What's up? NATO's 4 on life says, damn, work getting in the way. Can't watch now. Hi, Tim. Bye, Tim. Hopefully you watch that later, and know that I really appreciate you jumping in and saying hi. Matt Lennington, what's going on? Hardest part of this game is often finding dependable people to play with. Amen, and amen to that. It's not magic, but the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group has got a good track record. Join the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group, because there are a lot of really great people in there who will show up for games. Just put it that way. What you looking at is here. Yo! Hey, man. Listen, I'm not saying you have to. What you're looking at, you don't have to do this. But I look forward to the rhymes. I just don't see any rhymes, man. Where's the rhymes? Heavenly Hit Point says, I was thinking of asking my school to reserve tables in the cafeteria to have a small D&D area. Hopefully, we'll get some people in my area into D&D. That's a really, 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 really good idea. And there's all kinds of articles that talk about how that's really great for critical thinking and developmental learning and that sort of thing. All right, so I'll jump back into the chat. We have, RPG Construct is here. Alan Holloway, check for traps. Oh, and Matt of A Fistful of Dice, Absolute Tabletop, and officially freelancing for Wizards of the Coast. Yes, you heard me. My best friend is a freelancer at Wizards of the Coast. I officially, for real, have an uncle that works at Nintendo. So that's pretty killer. So, what can you expect when you watch the Provokers? Well, you can expect that if you've never seen a single episode before this, you're still gonna have a great time. And Matt's a good enough storyteller that if you were to start watching this Sunday night, you would find that you're drawn right in. And there's enough context and character there to pull you into the story, because the narrative is about the characters. It's not very plot heavy. There's also killer people in the chat who will kind of catch you up and answer questions and that sort of thing. But if you want to know more, I have some docs here. So here's the basic boilerplate things that you need to know about the Provokers. Okay? This is season 2, so this is a sequel that takes place far after the first campaign. If you haven't seen the first campaign, you don't need to watch it before you jump into this. In fact, if anything, it'll be like a really sick, awesome prequel. So anyway, 20 years have passed. So 20 years passed since our last campaign. And there was a war that shaped the whole region. And essentially, these heroes known as the Provokers, they were immortalized in song and legend. Our heroes, our characters from the last campaign saved the world. So they're very, very famous. But a lot changes in 20 years. So when you tune in on Sunday, go into it realizing, now, who are the Provokers? Who knows about the Provokers? What do the Provokers mean? I played a character in the first campaign named Durgan Blood Mountain. I'm working on my Durgan beard now. But in the second campaign, I play a character named Kristoff, who doesn't really care about the Provokers, because I thought that would be a really interesting idea. The thought process in my mind was, how many of us every day don't think about the sacrifices that people have made in the wars of our time? That to me was this character and the Provokers. So, evil is stirring again. It's been 20 years. A still unsettling quiet. In the wake of this last campaign, the Corruptors' War, the big bad, in the wake of us winning, the Provokers, basically prevailing, the barriers between our world and the next are starting to weaken. See, in Aeronoth, there's a magical arcane maelstrom known as the Bleak. These realms are starting to teeter. The Bleak is starting to fester. And so, even though there's a quiet peace, something stirs. So, what we're doing essentially, because there's going to be a little bit of spoilers here, to catch you right up if you were to jump in, we have a killer airship that we just procured. And we're getting ready to be able to sail anywhere in Aeronoth using this ship that sails across the Bleak. So, if you're into killer airship, if you're into awesome adventure, if you're into high role play, but also fun, this is a great jumping on point. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the characters, but before I do that, I want to jump into the chat. All right. Matt, heart, be flummy. And on the 8th day, the Provokers were created. After Taco Bell. What's going on, Syntax AI? What you looking at delivers. He says, he who remembers as he gets slimmer. Yeah, I'll give you that. Warmaker 777. Honestly, the Provokers is what showed me that D&D is much more than a game. It's building a compelling story with friends and having fun doing it. Dr. Professor Sir says the Provokers broke my cherry. So, who's in the game? Who do you have to care about? What's going on? What are we doing here? Well, there's Edric Skullsplitter, played by Mike Lasham, who's this sort of big-hearted lummox. And Mike does a really good job. So come meet Edric on Sunday night. He's sort of naive, and he's a guardsman who kind of got mixed up in all this stuff. So it's really fun to see that. Then there's Holly Rast, played by Barker, the guy who inspired me to roleplay in the first place. And Holly's pretty cynical. And so she is, I think it plays really well against Edric, because she's a realist. And she's part of this really, really cool undead hunting army known as the Blood Guard. So this is a huge spoiler from season 1. Huge. So I'm gonna count down while you mute it. And when I'm done, I'm gonna give you the thumbs up so you can unmute it. 3, 2, 1, mute. Holly is the estranged stepdaughter of Dice the Wizard from season 1 of the Provokers. And we just got to role play with dice. It was insane. It was surreal. It was amazing. And we saw some incredible role play. So, Holly is Dice's stepdaughter. All right, you can unmute now. So, then there's me, Christoph Stormraven. I make no secret about it. I'm playing Star-Lord. I'm doing my best Chris Pratt impersonation. And I try to also, though, have that sort of pang of heart that you can find in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. So that's me. I'm doing my best Chris Pratt impersonation. And, you know, one of the cool things about the group is that everyone sort of pairs up in different ways. So there's a lot of really fun role-play dynamics. You know, the way that the characters sort of edge. And Christoph and Edric, Mike's character, there's a very funny sort of buddy cop thing going, or like Laurel and Hardy. It's very hard to describe, but you should check it out because there's going to be plenty of it on Sunday. And then finally, certainly not leastly, is Nate from WASD 20, and he plays the character Sander Denara. And Sander is a halfling monk from this order known as the Unscorched. And so the entire this part of the campaign is taking place in this huge desert called Sonnegeist. And imagine if there was a desert on top of the bones of an old society that knew how to do necromancy. It's killer. It's killer. So the Unscorched are essentially scavengers in this super desert. And the idea is they collect these relics. Well, they had a particular relic that was extremely important. And there's more to that. I don't want to spoil any for who do want to catch up, but I want to give you enough good meat, like a couple of good bitefuls of meat and potatoes, so that you can jump in and glean what's happening from the context of what's going on. Let's jump back to the chat. Ho, 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 yeah, yeah. C.A. Hollenbach says, hey all, what's going on? Heavenly Hit Points. I remember my first D&D game. I tried playing on my own because I had no friends. And at the time, my brother was far away. It was actually fun. Isn't that just like the most proving thing about D&D? RPG Construct says, Provoked brought me back to D&D after 20 years. Wow. Now it's life. AbTab Group is the best dang place on the internet for this hobby. Always positive. I agree with that. Bear Gaming says, I feel like the nicest and funniest people always have depression because we know it's like what it's like to feel down and don't like others feeling that. That's a good point. Josh Hull says, hey Tim, sincerely as someone who deals with and has dealt with depression, you are a true inspiration for bouncing back and being a positive influence. Thank you and all the AbTab team. Man, you're welcome, and thank you. Thank you for hanging out. You know, it might sound slight to some people, but just getting up out of bed, turning on this stream, hanging out, it takes something, you know? Sometimes when you're not feeling it, man, when you're not feeling an upswing, when you're not feeling good, you don't want to do anything. You want to just hide in your dark hole, and so I encourage you, and I'm appreciative that you're not doing that. So, what kind of quests we have going on? Well, here's what happened. The DM's killer, and he just gave us this huge airship to fly wherever we want. So, it's going to be a really cool open world campaign, and honestly, this is the first session where we're going to fly anywhere in that ship. So, to me, this would be a really good jumping on point to watch the campaign because it's going to feel like the start of a new campaign almost, I think. We ticked off this bald psionic elf. Really, really, really cool character that Matt played. I felt honored. I was able to kind of talk him through. We bounce ideas off of each other even though we're in the same game. And so he kind of hit me with some stuff and I kind of hit him with some stuff back. And he always has a really good way of surprising me in the game, even if I've talked something through with him. Because we never obviously reveal plot points, but he'll say, hey, I'll give you this exact example because you really want to check out this guy. He's like, man, I hate the voice I came up with for my villain. And that's all he'll say, you know, that doesn't reveal anything to me. But because we work creatively publishing books, we have a really good creative language. We have a lexicon going, so we communicate really quickly and kind of come up with ideas. So I just said to him, I was like, dude, you know what's terrifying to me? And I straight up told him, I said, this is why the villain in our Dragongrin campaign talks like this. I said, it's terrifying to me when a villain is actually like polite and just the worst, but really nice, like genuinely nice. But there's something so dark beneath it. With that little bit, Matt made probably one of the most memorable villains I've ever seen in a D&D game. And he's an elf of the realm of Haldrathine. And essentially, we're learning that they're psionics. And they have purple eyes. The henchman, this hench person to this Haldrathine elf, does not have a mouth. So it's really like creepy. It's almost like that sort of, like the mouth has been removed. It's really, really creepy. But they've been getting into our dreams, and his whole thing is he wants this relic. He came to the Order of the Unscorched, where Sanders from, Nate's character, to get this relic, and we decided we weren't going to give it to him. And then all hell broke loose. The relic, this sphere that sort of looks like this Death Star thing, it's just really tiny. It's probably about, I imagine it being about the size of a softball. Maybe a little larger than that. Anyway, you remember that magical arcane maelstrom I told you about, that thing called the Bleak? That's sort of the fabric of the entire realm all around us. Well, this sphere burst hot white and transported us into the Bleak. That's where we ran into Dice the Wizard, who's stuck in there. So the session pretty much ended when we found out that we were on the back of a titanic dragon the size of a city, and we went through a portal, and that's where this session's gonna start. How could you not watch? How can you not come and hang out with us? We have to find out what's gonna happen. I have a feeling that I'm gonna wanna do something different than the other characters, because I try to play my character the way that I would, which is a little selfish, but also self-preservationist. So, let's go to the chat. Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. It's a really good day. It's awesome. Oh, DBJ is here from Critical Hit Publishing. Check them out on Drive-Thru-RPG. Love the brain fuel. Yeah, man. Me too. I love your posts all the time. Ben Buckner says, Magical Arcane Maelstrom, a.k.a. an MAM. Ma'am? That's what we call it. Ma'am? All right. What you looking at says, it's because the 4 AbTab guys are the most positive people I've met. Thanks, man. I will say this. I have beaten my depression. I genuinely feel like the reason why I was depressed, because I had every reason to be happy. You know, isn't that weird? I had every reason to be happy. I had a lot of really good things going for me. But I would just lay in bed and feel worthless. This is stupid. It's a lie. It's not true. But the reason is because I found out, for me anyway, it's because I believe that one of my innate purposes on this earth is to be creative and to teach others to be creative. So, unused creativity is not benign. It metastasizes. It attaches to the different parts of your life, at least for me, and it was just terrible. So, my point is, that's one of the reasons why we started Tabletop Terrors, to be more creative and to help people be more creative, because that's how I'm so positive. It's because I'm doing something that I feel like I love to do and that I was born to do. Warmaker says a good example of Christoph not caring about the Provokers is how many people know the names of the SEAL, how many people know the SEAL Team 6 members that killed bin Laden, or even thinks about it on a daily basis. Exactly. Right, that's a really good real world analogy. Diego De Silva, yeah, what's going on, man? And they threw up the horns. To be honest, you shouldn't know their names. They're supposed to be the quiet professionals. Oh, that's what you're looking at says. So what are we gonna do? We got an airship. Well, let's talk about some quests that we might do. And you gotta tune in, because you gotta check out, I mean, you know, we're gonna hash this out in game. We haven't really discussed it much because we love that sort of unfolding and the conflict. And so we have this sphere, we have this bleak sphere, right? And so right now Sanders carrying it. It's an ancient stone sphere. It possesses the ability to calm this maelstrom we've talked about. So this maelstrom has these eruptions of arcane activity known as bleak storms. This sphere actually allows the controlling of these bleak storms. This is a very powerful artifact. And It's desired. Remember that bald elf I was talking about? Iskandar? Well, this Haldrathine elf, Iskandar, he wants this thing in a bad way, and we don't know why. So that's one plot line. Keep away from Iskandar, right? The second thing, it was actually really, really cool. I worked with Matt to write a letter from my old character to an NPC in the current campaign. It's called Durgan's Testament, okay? Which is kind of cool because I'm a paladin, so kind of playing off that like it's a holy text in a way. Because, you know, you got to really look at it. And I'm not trying to tip any sacred cows here, but the dudes who wrote the Bible were just dudes. They were guys. They were hanging around. They were just like you and me in a lot of ways. And so I love that concept for Durgan. You know, and so this Durgan's Testament, the dude who built the Bleak ship that we now own, this guy named Sigay, he built this because Durgan Bloodmountain, my old character, was like, hey, Sigay, we need this thing. I can't really go into details why, but we're gonna need it for the coming war. So it's kind of cool. One of my characters from the last campaign wrote a letter to this sort of arcanic tinker in this campaign, and that's where we got the flying ship. So I love how Matt ties things together. But there are a couple other plot lines too, like my brother was murdered, and I feel like I just found out the spot where it might have happened. So that's where, when I was saying I might disagree with the other characters, I feel like that's where I'm gonna wanna go, you know? So we also have, there's a massive bleak storm that is raging off the coast. So what are we gonna do? We have the ability to stop it. We've got the sphere. Do we go there? You know? And finally, there's this place called the Plateau, where I talked to you about Sonageist, right? It was this desert. We're in this desert that's built upon the bold bones of old Casimir. This desert should not have a forest in it. However, on the plateau, it's covered in greenery. So what's going on? Why is that happening? So what would you do? Which plot hook would you choose? I want to know, because we're gonna have this airship. We can literally go wherever we want, but now it's a matter of being responsible and all of us agreeing. And who's gonna fly this thing? That's what I want to know. All right, back to the chat. C.A. Hollenbach says, I think Kristoff is more of a Yondu, Tim. You know what? I could see that. Michael Conair Oates says, nah, Tabletop Terrors hooked me. Awesome. Oh, Alessandro says, Provokers hooked me. And that's why Michael said, well, thanks, Michael. Michael also says, hi, mate, I've been watching for a tad now and I'm loving it. Dude, I'm really glad. I'm reading these comments way out of order. So we have this inside joke from another campaign we play called The Winds of Sursaline. We were being daffy. It was really early in the morning, and James's character's a Dragonborn. Got all smashed around in this room-sized trap. And so in the comments, because we have a secret comment thread, in the comments, I typed, Garl's getting knocked around like a dinosaur lasagna. It was just the right moment because everybody laughed and laughed and laughed, and poor Barker's trying to DM the game. And so that became a part of the absolute tabletop inside joke lexicon. So if you hear us talking about dinosaur lasagna, those are the origins. But, so what is Provokers like? Well, Provokers, it's story driven. There's still some joking, but there's a lot more roleplay. So if you're familiar with some amazing games like the PAX Penny Arcade games with Chris Perkins, or even Critical Role, this is kind of like a cousin to that stuff. So I think you'd enjoy it. If you enjoy those, I think you'll like this. We do certainly understand that there's an audience, but I would say, as far as like the roleplay and story side, we turn the dial just a little more in that direction. So it's slightly different play style, not as much outright kind of joking and fun, but there's plenty of fun, and I would say that it just creates just a little bit more of an environment for character opportunity. So it's a little more like watching like a TV show or reading a book. So if you dig those other online streams, if you like watching live D&D, this is a good way to learn more about the game. Matt Click, super good dungeon master. He's the guy that pretty much taught me everything I know about the way I DM now. Just watch the game. If you don't even want to see the provokers, watch the game and just write down what he does. Oh, okay. He opens with a scene like this. Oh, he described it like that. Oh, he handled that this way. It's a class in what you can do to run a game and run it tightly. You know, I always joke, but it's one of those many a truth was said in jest. I joke that my DMing is it's just my best Matt Click impersonation. So the other thing that's really important is, this is just me rambling. If you want to catch up yourself, if you want to go and read this document that I have, you can go to the Fistful of Dice Facebook page, A Fistful of Dice, and you'll see an arcane gauntlet clutching dice. There is a recap document that you can go through and read all this stuff yourself. There's much more in-depth recaps of every session, so you can actually read point for point of what happened. There's a list of non-player characters. There's also a list of all the plots I mentioned, as well as our characters and much more. So you have everything that you need to get caught up for Sunday for the Provokers. I think for the rest of my walk here, we're gonna do just a little Q&A. So I'm gonna go back to the chat, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. You got any questions? Hit me up here. I'm also gonna tie my shoe next to where the stench of the dead animal was yesterday. So when I get to the necro zone, I'm gonna tie my shoe here. Right then, I'm just scrolling back to the top if you're wondering why I'm just looking at the screen. Here we go. What you looking at says, think of guys like Audie Murphy. That's the level the Provokers are on. Oh, thanks, man. And then B. Flummy mentions dinosaur lasagna. CA Tom, nope, okay. All right, Heavenly Hit Points. Student versus homework. Student rolls a 20. Homework is defeated. Student loots homework and finds an A+. Right there, that's some D&D. Here, I'm gonna tie my shoe. All right, so Warmaker777 is just curious. I assume you and James aren't doing it since Dead Man's Guide is being made still, but are there any other ab-tabbers thinking of writing a book in their worlds in the near future? Probably not. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you the lazy reason why. It is much quicker and fun to play out the story than it is to sit down and rewrite it. So, there's a caveat to that. There's a sideways trapdoor here that I'm gonna tell you about in a second. But it takes a lot of time and effort to write out prose with just me or just one of the guys. It's much easier in a group where there's 4 or 5 people to tell a collaborative story where the plot lines are a little moldable and shifting and changing. So, I say that to say, if you go to the Absolute Tabletop, it's news.absolutetabletop.com. Matt Click has written some incredible short stories for his campaign setting of Harbinger. On the heels of that, I wrote a short story for the Oath of the Frozen King adventure kit. So there is a tiny bit of writing, but you nailed it. It's mostly because it just takes a lot of time where we get to do the easy stuff. Listen, I'm not gonna try to pretend it's something else. It's way more enjoyable to play pretend for 4 hours and make that story. And then when you're writing an RPG book, listen, here's the secret. You don't have to write the story. You get to do arguably the most easy part, which is, hey, what if this happens? Then I get to hand it to you, so you make up the story. That is way more attractive to me right now in this stage of life than writing an actual book. Someday, I want to settle down and write some prose, no question. We also write a webcomic, so you can check that out on Absolute Tabletop and Tabletop Terrors. It's called Roll to Stabilize, but all of that to say, a little bit of prose, but it's way harder for us right now. Epic shoe tie cam. So Warmaker777 says also watch Matt's campaign prep video. The Ket one. I always have it in the background when I prep, just I feel like I'm hanging out with someone and getting some helpful tips. That's perfect. All right. Riders Rohan says, ever since I left the military, I have suffered from massive depression. I don't leave my house unless I have no choice. Man, I'm really sorry to hear that. Again, I'm really glad you're hanging out here. And no pressure, but maybe get into the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group, you know? And lurk. You don't have to post, just lurk, you know? But we're around. Hit us up if you need anything, you know what I'm saying? Bear Gaming says, and the thing about depression is that some people don't understand. So you can be happy sometimes, but it's kind of like having a switch. You can be having a great day, and out of nowhere you feel different. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified to discuss depression, but I do talk about it openly because I feel like it is way more rampant than we realize. And I just feel like it's, for me anyway, I never want to make somebody feel uncomfortable. Well, I want them to understand that, to me, feeling depression, for whatever reason, incites this need to not tell anybody you're depressed. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's embarrassment or confusion, I don't know. But even just saying, like, yeah, for me anyway, being able to say it, that's kind of my first step to get out of it. Now, again, I haven't really, thankfully, I haven't really struggled with depression for a long time. 3 years now, you know? But for me, the source of my particular depression was I wasn't doing what I felt like my purpose was in life. And I found that through tabletop games, and I found it through Tabletop. So Riders of Rohan, we're here. Heavenly Hit Point says, and this is true, it's kind of a weird thought. He says, it feels weird to think about the fact that this is like live. Like you're walking right now across the globe and I can see it. It feels weird. Dude, are you stoned? No, I'm just kidding. But that was a really kind of deep thought. I actually had this thought. It's almost in the same neighborhood as your thought, right? We go to the same cookouts and block parties, these ideas. I was thinking Absolute Tabletop, hear me out, Absolute Tabletop couldn't exist just 10 years ago. We couldn't. The technology wouldn't be there. Not for us to communicate every day like we do and get to know each other and pass work along and share ideas. It wouldn't exist. And so that's a weird thought too. So yeah, I'm with you. It's a weird one. Epic Shutai cam. Bear Gaming says 10 out of 10. Would watch Shutai again. Tim Old's gonna be wearing Velcro soon. Yeah, man. Listen, I got them fresh Saucony. You know the ones. When somebody's rocking some Saucony, you can Google it. Saucony Velcro shoes. Dude, I like to enjoy the Golden Corral buffet. I'm a man of distinguished taste. Here's Bear Gaming says, here's a crazy thought. Everyone born in the 90s is now an adult. I was born in 99. Yeah, man. Well, we're older. Ha! Wouldn't say we're adults, am I right? Anyway, I hope you guys join us. I hope you hang out this coming Sunday night on the Fistful of Dice YouTube channel. Provokers is something really cool. It's really fun, and I want to invite you to be a part. You're awesome. You're all super inventive. You're super creative. And if nothing else, you can be doing something else while you're watching. So you don't have to just sit and watch with your Michael Jackson popcorn gif. You can be prepping for a game or writing something or making ideas, grabbing ideas from the idea net, whatever. Anyway, this is going to do it for me. You're all amazing. If you enjoyed this at all, if you had fun whatsoever, be sure to subscribe, and hit that bell down in the corner, and it'll alert you whenever I go live so you don't miss out. And we'll see you Sunday. We'll see you Sunday night. Until then, may you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake. Sláinte. Of course, until next time, may your dice roll high.